I've lived in Omaha my whole life, and I don't see a lot of kids wearing Nebraska gear. My kids have one Husker T-shirt, each for when we catch a game at Memorial Stadium. It's hard for them to believe the Huskers were ever good. Losing has definitely hurt the brand in Omaha. You pair that with the lack of recruiting in the Metro for high school football, and the N doesn't carry the same weight as it used to. Winning will cure everything. That
Wow,
was
that's
from
a damn good
Paul.
email. Really good email.
A lot of truth there.
Yeah.
The gear thing is the thing. Creighton basketball, not only success on the floor, is they've had some well-known players that wore 3 or 55. They've had players come through that, there's going to be a lot of 11s. They've done a really good job of getting kids in uniforms. Like you see a lot of kids wearing Creighton jerseys. Paul is absolutely right. This has been a discussion I've had for a long time is the brand, the clothing. Are the kids, when they go to, Shields more than anything has, you can get a North Dakota State shirt here.
Sure can.
You can get anything. Are you bypassing the Nebraska gear? Or like I hear teachers say, when we have wear your favorite team's colors
Spirit
day,
Week.
There's no big
there used to be, like when they were in school, they would say, man, everybody wore Nebraska stuff. Now I got kids who are wearing stuff from all over the country, but very few,
there's
kids that are wearing Nebraska, even though they are, very aware of Nebraska and, mom and dad maybe went to school there or they root for them. So it's that's why it's so important of this popping sooner than later, because you're talking about generations that you miss, whether they live in Scottsbluff or they live in Omaha. They don't know success. Thus, they don't buy the gear. They're not wearing the gear. And then when they get older and they start having kids, they're not passing it down. Yeah,
you're not passing down the stories. And that's all a lot of this generation knows is the stories from mom and dad and grandma and grandpa of the success. And until you actually experience it yourself, until you visualize it and see it, it's really hard to take it for anything other than just mom and dad telling me stories about them, but I never saw it. You're not going to spend the time. At least most kids aren't going to spend the time to go back in the YouTube archives and start watching games, anything like that. You're just not going to do that. And I like the point that Paul brings up about the gear with a lot of kids, because I've noticed it in the last 2 places I've lived in the Omaha area. The neighborhoods have a lot of kids in them, have a lot of kids between the ages of probably 5 to 12, 13 years old. Hardly ever do I see any of them wearing Nebraska sweatshirts or Nebraska things. And it's funny you bring up Creighton, because I do see a lot more Creighton representation. I'm proud to say this. I see a lot more of the Omaha logo than I ever did ever before. And I think that's a great thing, but it also does show you the power of witnessing success on your own as opposed to hearing about it from older siblings or mom and dad. Look, we were all that age, and we would gravitate to what was cool, what was hip, what was trendy. And
you grew up at the perfect time.
Well, absolutely. And winning is cool. Winning is hip and trendy.
What I grew up during American Bandstand.
Yeah,
I'm just saying it.
Gary's like
you
right there
lived
with
it.
me.
You were there.
But that's the part of it is. I think there's a cool like there was a time, and Gary, you remember this too.
Dick Clark was a banger, man. On that show. him and Don Cornelius, when they were, you'd have American Bandstand and Soul Train. Oh. That was the day back then, man. I'd go to roller skate after I'd see those 2 shows.
Where were you when Richie Valens had that really fateful night?
High school, of course.
But and Gary, you remember this? You'd go to
was videotaping.
8mm.
You would be at Omaha basketball games, and when they would pan into the crowd and you would see images, a lot of older people would be wearing these days. I see a lot more kids wearing Creighton. I think kids are into basketball, and I think kids are into what is a very successful basketball program too. So you see a lot more Creighton gear than I can ever remember in the last 10 years of my life. So this is the part of sustained success when it comes to a brand and when it comes to the cool factor. Winning's cool. Start winning, and kids are going to think it's cool. They're going to start repping the brand too.
A couple of tweets here from Alan. I've also seen younger kids more and more into NBA and NFL too. Less Notre Dame and Oklahoma. It's a college thing I've seen. That's why, as a lifelong Chiefs fan, seeing this golden age is neat to see because there's so many kids in Mahomes uniforms. Nobody was wearing Trent Green.
No, I looked. Don't remember seeing it.
Yeah, I never saw a Damon Huard jersey.
There was Tony and Priest and DT.
Yeah. There was no Duron Cherries.
Well, will this change your opinion?
Stephon Page?
Willie Davis.
Duron Cherries on the Ring of Fame.
He was a dude.
I'm not saying he was bad. It's just a long time ago.
You just want to kick Nick Lowry as well?
No, hell no.
And his coach's pants.
You know, why don't you tell me, why don't you just break my heart about Jamal Charles?
Actually, I was at that game.
Priest Holmes.
I was at the Jamal Charles game.
You going to knock Mike Bell?
No.
Or Bobby Bell?
Okay.
No, you're right, Mike Bell. Well, Bobby, Mike, both of them.
I always seem like I got a lot of Mike Bell football cards.
Still no. What about? Well, I guess we already know about Christian McCoy, but no love for Stephon Page.
Barry Word, Harvey Williams.
Stephon Page had a monster game against the Jets on just a nothing means anything Sunday. He set like one of the records in the NFL with receiving yards.
It's one of the first football cards I ever had.
Give me a little love for Steve Fuller, Bill Kinney.
Okay. Sorry. Let's keep going.
Love it. Lloyd Burris.
Would it change your opinion on the brand if the brand got back to Omaha for the College World Series? Now, this is quite the reach, and this is quite the stretch, and I'm trying to tie these two in. But
that'd be huge.
I'm just saying this from the standpoint of I brought it up because I had a conversation with him, and then he was on this radio station yesterday. I was talking to Kendall Rogers about Nebraska, and Kendall said, I got him as a number 2 seed, but they still have a chance to host. I relayed this conversation yesterday, and I was like, what? And he goes, they still got a chance to host. Said it out loud yesterday.
Top 20 RPI. I said it.
They are right now 20th in the RPI. The perception of Nebraska baseball in-state compared to out-of-state is different. Now, they might just look at the RPI. We look at, that month of April was not very good.
Yeah, or that midweek.
But that May is off to a good start of 1-0.
With a no-hitter.
But I think you have to, is it because of the RPI or is it because we need a Midwest host? Bam, Nebraska. That's it. We're going to find out pretty quick because I got 3 more weekends of the conference season and 1 more non-con, so I got 10 games left. Quite interesting that Nebraska, as much as we try and kill it, could still be in line to host a regional.
I will need that RPI.
I saw one bracket yesterday. Had Nebraska actually as a 16 seed. So one of the top 16 seeds.
Yeah. Because then you're also forecasting that they're going to win the next 3 series because your toughest series is at home. That's Indiana next weekend. You've got Minnesota this weekend, then you've got Michigan State to close out the regular season. Then you're essentially at home for the conference tournament where you could be as high as a 1. I don't know if you go any lower than a 4 seed where you will have an advantage. Especially, it's hard to compare Nebraska against Purdue and Illinois since they haven't played, so we don't know how they actually match up. But I think there's some forecasting that if Nebraska were to, and you mentioned it earlier in the show, Minnesota has not been swept yet, and they actually won their first conference series last week. But you've got, out of the 3 series remaining, you've got 2 opportunities where you could essentially do that between Minnesota and Michigan State. If you were able to even go 5-1 and then win the series against Indiana, I'm telling you, you probably have to, and I'm not even say probably, you have to have at least 2 wins in the Big Ten tournament. If you do all of that, 5-1 between Minnesota and Michigan State, and you win the series, so then you add 2 more wins, so then you're 7-2. And I don't even care what you do in the mid. Who do they even have in the midweek?
They have South Dakota State.
South Dakota. Okay, don't lose that one. So then I know I'm putting a lot of wins in front of them. And then you go to the Big Ten tournament and you win 2 games. You put yourself into the last 4 standing. Boys, they're probably hosting. And that is, and as I lay that, I know there's a lot of ifs there, but that is not the most impossible task given that conference.
I say they will stay as a 2. They will not host. I just don't see them. I don't see them hosting. Now, if they go 9-1 and they do win the Big Ten, that's going to take winning the Big Ten.
Yep.
So you're going to do scoreboard watching with Purdue and Illinois for the next couple of weekends. I don't know, but Kendall's keeping it alive. The dream is alive.
It's the RPI.
Or he's getting a kickback from a lot of people that are in, have RV dealerships in Lincoln.
Lincoln businesses.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Nebraska, Minnesota, first game 5 tonight. All are on the plus.
Yes.
We got no Big Ten Network stuff.
How?
No. What are they showing? Who's playing spring game this weekend?
Campus Eats.
The best of Reggie Bush.
We'll probably get all the
lacrosse.
Probably get all the spring games in 60. That's probably what it is.
If anybody is saying, "Hey, man, I can't wait for the new 4 teams to come in. It's going to be great for baseball." The league ain't helping its cause with the people that are still around here.
Mm-hmm.
This is a bad league. This is a really, really bad league.
And you can't watch
Any other year, like if Nebraska be dabbling in the 60s, you'd be like, "Oh, yeah." I mean, you go from Nebraska, you would be doing that. That'd be like Will on the phone in his office. And Renee would go, "What'd you say?"
Transcript that. It's like Coach
Remember when I was at Texas A&M? They're the number 1 overall seed. Is you go from Nebraska's RPI, you go from 20, and then you're like, You got to go into the 60s to find the next 3 teams out of the Big Ten. This conference isn't helping itself.
Then you get multiple teams in the 60s, Gary. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, the Big East does have.
We fought a couple of wars in the 60s
that are inside the 60s that the Big Ten does. And I refuse to say the Big East is good. I know people are like, "Well, the Big East is a lot better than it's been." Yeah. Okay, yeah, maybe it's been better than it's been. It's been really, really bad. So I refuse to say, man, the Big East, that's a juggernaut. No.
Well, we're about to find out. And as I said earlier, for Creighton, you can throw all the numbers at me. Just win. Because you get to take care of it. You get to take care of everything here.